A simple woman with a serious injury came to a private hospital thinking that she would be helped there. But she was harassed because of her appearance. They thought she was homeless. They laughed at her. The doctors did not want to admit her. She showed a VIP pass, but they did not believe her and kicked her out and left her unconscious on the cold sidewalk. But this was a big mistake because she was not a simple woman. She staggered through the private hospital's revolving doors, clutching her side. A dark stain had already begun to spread across her shirt, a troubling sign. Her breath was shallow, and her eyes flicked desperately from the reception desk to the nearby security guards. "I need help," she whispered, stepping forward. "Please, someone. I have a VIP pass, The receptionist barely looked up from her glossy nail polish, her voice a mix of boredom and thinly veiled disdain. "Ma'am, this is Pinnacle Medical. Private admission only. You'll want County General, 2 miles east." The woman's name was Lily Hart. Her sneakers were worn, the once white canvas now scuffed and graying. She wore faded jeans, a threadbare hoodie, and a satchel slung low over one shoulder. Her brown hair was unkempt and frizzy at the ends. But her hands trembled with more than pain. There was desperation in her eyes, a kind of urgency that should have silenced everyone. "Please," she repeated. "I have a pass." One of the doctors, a man in an Armani lab coat with his badge swinging from a platinum chain, wrinkled his nose as he walked by. "Security," he said under his breath. "We've got a walk-in. Smells like a shelter case." A chuckle echoed from behind the desk. "Maybe she thinks VIP means very injured person." A few nurses stifled laughter. One of them, a young brunette with a stethoscope more for show than practice, leaned in and whispered to her colleague. "She looks like someone who lives in her car." Still holding her side, Lily fumbled in her satchel and pulled out a card, black, with an embossed silver insignia and the unmistakable letters, VIP, Pinnacle Patron Access. The receptionist blinked. Then she smiled, sweet and fake. "Oh, honey," she said, stepping around the counter as if to comfort her. "You found this? I'm going to have to ask you to step outside while we verify it." "No," Lily croaked, now bent at the waist, her knees buckling. "It's mine. Please, I need help." The head of security, a thick-armed man with a buzz cut, stepped in. "Ma'am, you can't stay here. We don't want a scene. Step outside or we'll have to escort you out." "But Before she could finish, he grabbed her by the elbow, steering her firmly toward the automatic doors. From behind, a nurse called mockingly, "Want us to page Dr. Goodwill?" As the doors hissed open and cold air struck her face, Lily's legs gave out. She collapsed on the sidewalk, her vision blurring. The last thing she heard before everything went black was the receptionist's voice, laughing. "Maybe next time wear something that doesn't scream dumpster sale." None of them noticed the 2 black SUVs idling across the street. None of them saw the gloved driver speaking into a small earpiece. "She's down," confirmed. And none of them knew what would walk through their front doors the next morning, nor that their entire world was about to tilt off its polished, white-walled axis. The next morning arrived with an indifferent sky, gray, metallic, and thick with spring drizzle. The staff at Pinnacle Medical moved through the marble lobby with practiced ease, their heels clicking against the floors like the ticking of an expensive watch. The receptionist, Kendra, was back behind the desk, sipping a green juice and retelling yesterday's story for the 3rd time. I swear, the woman smelled like she bathed in radiator fluid. She kept saying she had a VIP pass. Honestly, I think it was fake. "People are getting bold," murmured Dr. Landon Pierce, adjusting the cuffs of his pale blue scrub top. "They'll do anything for attention." "I heard she fainted outside," said the intern from billing. "Did anyone call an ambulance?" Kendra shrugged. She was breathing. "It's not our job to babysit the sidewalk." But at 8:03 a.m., the hospital's front doors opened again, this time not to a desperate woman in a torn hoodie, but to a vision that left the room hushed. A black Bentley glided to a halt at the valet entrance. From the passenger side, a tall man in a tailored black suit and mirrored sunglasses stepped out. He opened the back door, and from it emerged a woman in a white wool coat that swept to her ankles. Her heels, Louboutin red, clicked against the marble in perfect rhythm. Her lips were painted in a soft rose, her hair pinned back in a sleek knot. But it wasn't her beauty that drew attention. It was the unmistakable aura of someone important. Someone powerful. Behind her walked two bald men in dark suits, earpieces coiled discreetly beneath their collars. The lobby fell silent. Kendra stood slowly. "Can I help you?" she asked, though her voice faltered. The woman removed her sunglasses. It was her. The same woman from the night before. But now she looked unreal. Regal. Untouchable. Kendra's mouth opened slightly. "Wait, you. I was here yesterday," the woman said calmly. Her voice, now clear and commanding, rang through the lobby like a bell. "Bleeding. In pain. Carrying this." She pulled the same black VIP card from her coat pocket, placing it gently on the marble desk. "Your staff laughed. Mocked me. Denied care." Kendra's face strained of color. I didn't realize." "I'm sure you didn't." Dr. Pierce appeared beside her, eyes narrowing in disbelief. "There must be some mistake. We didn't. I'm not here for your apology," she said simply. "I'm here to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." She turned, gesturing to one of her bodyguards, who handed her a slim black folder. She flipped it open and laid it on the counter. The heading was printed in platinum ink. Honoraria Foundation for Equity in Private Medicine. Underneath was her name. Lily Hart. Singer. Philanthropist. Global Ambassador. The folder contained her foundation's proposal, a 7-figure donation to create a private patient wing for underinsured women facing emergency health crises. It would include training for all staff on dignity-centered care, and full video reviews of past patient rejections. "Effective immediately," Lily said. "My legal team will begin reviewing security footage from yesterday. If anyone wants to recuse themselves before that, I suggest you start now." The room was still. Kendra's hand trembled slightly on the counter. You're Lily Hart?" she whispered. "The Lily Hart?" Lily's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I was yesterday too." The receptionist looked ready to collapse. Dr. Pierce swallowed hard, his arrogance retreating like the tide. Lily turned to leave, her heels echoing behind her like a final judgment. Outside, the Bentley waited. She paused at the door and glanced back at the silent hospital staff gathered in the lobby. "Next time," she said softly, "try treating the quiet ones like they might matter." And then she was gone. The hospital boardroom was unusually full that afternoon. Suits that hadn't been seen outside of annual fundraisers were suddenly present, their expressions pinched and anxious. A flat screen at the front played muted security footage, a time-stamped video of Lily Hart collapsing just beyond the revolving doors, her blood dark against the white concrete. Dr. Landon Pierce sat stiffly at the head of the table. His usual arrogance had dulled into something like fear. "She didn't identify herself," he muttered. "She didn't need to," said Board Chair Marlene Waters, her sharp glasses catching the light. "She had a valid VIP credential. Our policy is clear. Emergencies are to be assessed on presentation, not appearance." She looked homeless. That was Kendra's voice. Quiet. Defensive. Marlene turned. "And if she had been? We leave her to bleed on the sidewalk?" The room fell silent. On screen, Lily Hart's body slumped to the ground again. A few in the room looked away. "She's not just some singer," murmured CFO Alan Brigg. "She's a media darling. Her charity concerts raised over $5 million for pediatric cancer last year alone. We turned away that woman in front of security cameras." Pierce rubbed his temple. "It wasn't just about her clothes. She was disoriented." "You mean she didn't beg convincingly enough?" Outside the boardroom, word had already spread. The lobby staff spoke in hushed tones. Kendra had taken her second unscheduled break of the day. A nurse who'd laughed the day before now scrolled Lily Hart's Wikipedia page with dread twisting in her gut. On social media, the first whispers began. Did Pinnacle Hospital really turn away Lily Hart bleeding? If it can happen to her, what about the rest of us? #Dignity Denied started trending by evening. In her penthouse suite, Lily sat with her feet curled beneath her, a cup of peppermint tea warming her hands. She didn't smile. She didn't rage. She simply watched the clip play on loop. The part where they laughed. The part where they shoved her out. The part where she almost died. She didn't want revenge. She wanted reform. And that would sting more than any headline. The hospital's PR team worked through the night. By morning, a statement was live on their website. We deeply regret the unfortunate misunderstanding involving Ms. Lily Hart. We are conducting an internal review to ensure this never happens again. But it wasn't enough. Not when Lily posted her own response. No photo. No hashtags. Just a single tweet at 9:04 a.m. I walked in bleeding. I walked out humiliated. And I almost didn't walk out at all. If I looked like money, would they have helped me sooner? This wasn't about fame. It was about judgment. And that judgment almost cost me my life. 2 million likes in 6 hours. News outlets latched on immediately. The Daily Post ran the headline. Superstar Lily Hart mistaken for homeless, denied emergency care at elite hospital. In the employee break room, the staff sat in silent dread. Kendra stared at the tiny styrofoam cup in her hands, the coffee inside untouched. I didn't know. She whispered for the 5th time. She said VIP. Said the night nurse, arms crossed. She showed the card. It scanned green. You laughed. Kendra's face crumpled. She didn't look like someone who belonged here. And she didn't say she was Lily Hart. She didn't have to. Someone else muttered. Meanwhile, in a private room down the hall, Dr. Landon Pierce stood across from Lily Hart. The 2 bald bodyguards waited by the elevator, arms folded. Pierce looked diminished now, his white coat less armor and more apology. I owe you more than I can say, he murmured. I made assumptions. I won't pretend I didn't. I don't expect forgiveness, but thank you for not suing us into the Stone Age. Lily sat across from him in a soft wool sweater, no makeup, hair pulled back in a low twist. There was no trace of performance in her eyes, just a steady, unflinching calm. I'm not interested in tearing this place down, she said. But I will rebuild it. Pierce blinked. Rebuild? I'll fund the new wing, Lily said. Under one condition. I handpick the director. And every employee, from security to senior staff, undergoes dignity-centered care training. No exceptions. Pierce hesitated. That could rattle some egos. Lily stood. Let them rattle. She walked past him with the same poise she'd shown walking out of that Bentley the day before. Because power, she'd learned, doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it arrives in silence, and changes everything. By the end of the week, every hallway in Pinnacle Medical buzzed with whispers. Not of medicine. Not of patients. But of her. They no longer said, the homeless woman. Now they said, Ms. Hart. At exactly 10 a.m. Friday, a glossy black van pulled into the side parking lot, unmarked, but unmistakable. From it stepped a lean, silver-haired woman in an ivory trench coat and tortoiseshell glasses. Her clipboard was clasped like a gavel. This was Evelyn Cross, former chief of staff at Johns Hopkins and Lily Hart's newly appointed director of training. Her background? Military hospital trauma units. Her reputation? Brutally effective. Her first order? Mandatory attendance at the Respect in Practice seminar. Kendra received her email at 10:02 a.m. She read the subject line twice. Required, Professional Conduct Review, Session 1 of 4. She felt sick. She had already cried twice this morning in the break room, her usual acidic wit gone flat. The moment she saw Evelyn Cross walk through the double doors of the admin wing, she knew there would be no hiding. Receptionist, Evelyn said without raising her voice, tapping her list. Kendra what's? Kendra nodded barely. Evelyn studied her a moment longer than necessary, then simply said, "You're first." In the conference room, a slideshow played quietly behind them, grainy freeze frames from the lobby security footage. Each frame captured the faces of staff, not just ignoring Lily, but laughing, sneering. There she was, hunched forward, blood soaking into her hoodie. There was Dr. Pierce walking past her without a glance. There was Kendra smirking, arms folded. "This isn't a courtroom," Evelyn said. "You're not here to defend yourself. You're here to listen. To watch. And maybe, if you've got the spine for it, to change." Kendra sat frozen, her hands balled in her lap. When Evelyn hit play, the laughter on the video echoed in the room. Her own voice. Her own words. "Maybe next time wear something that doesn't scream dumpster sale." Kendra gasped. Hearing it out loud, like that, was worse than she'd imagined. "You thought no one important would remember," Evelyn said. "You assumed the poor don't talk, or at least not to people who matter. But you were wrong. And now the world is watching." The door opened. Another staffer stepped in. One by one, they would all sit. All watch. And all hear what silence feels like when it cuts both ways. Down the hall, in her private room, Lily Hart tuned her guitar gently by the window. The hospital had changed its tone. But it hadn't yet changed its soul. She was going to make sure it did. By Monday, the walls of Pinnacle Medical weren't just whispering, they were sweating. Gone were the usual morning greetings. The tight-lipped nods. The easy arrogance of a hospital used to prestige, shielding it from consequence. Now every staffer moved like they were being watched, because they were. Evelyn Cross's second wave of reforms rolled out like thunder. The dress code was relaxed. The security desk was relocated to the inside of the entrance. The patient intake protocol was rewritten from scratch, placing urgency above appearance, insurance, or charm. And on every elevator screen, a new banner glowed soft and steady. "Healing begins with dignity. Lily Hart, patron emerita." The staff didn't speak her name often. But they all thought it. Lily hadn't returned since that morning in white and silk, but her presence lingered like a scent, refined, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. In a quiet corner of the hospital cafe, Dr. Landon Pierce stirred his coffee and stared at his reflection in the dark surface. His nameplate had been removed from the director's wing that morning. He was still a doctor. Still respected. But something had broken. Not just his reputation. Something deeper. He remembered her, barely standing, voice trembling, yet still polite. He'd passed her like a smudge on glass. All his years of school, training, fellowships, and yet one moment had revealed him for what he truly was, not a healer, but a gatekeeper. "Is this seat taken?" He looked up. It was Evelyn Cross. She slid into the seat across from him without waiting for an answer. "I thought I'd get fired," he admitted. "You're not being fired," Evelyn said evenly. "You're being re-educated." He chuckled once, hollow. "Is that kinder? It's harder." She leaned in. "But you're capable of it. If you weren't, she wouldn't have let you stay." Pierce looked up, surprised. "She watched every piece of footage. Read every report. When asked if you should be removed permanently, Lily said one thing: everyone deserves a second chance. Even the ones who didn't give me one." Pierce stared at his coffee, his throat tightening. "She's not like anyone I've met," he whispered. "No," Evelyn agreed, standing. "She's not." Later that evening, Lily stood alone in her rooftop garden, phone in hand. A new email had arrived. Subject line: "First patient, new wing, request for visit." Beneath it, a short note. "Her name is Carmen. 16, no insurance. Walked in with a bruised lung and nowhere else to go. We treated her." She asked if she could meet the woman who made that possible. Lily exhaled slowly. It was beginning. Not with headlines. Not with applause. But with one life saved. And then, hopefully, another. The room was quiet when Lily entered. Soft yellow light spilled from a bedside lamp. Carmen lay propped up against pillows, a tangle of curls framing her pale face, her breathing shallow but steady. A gauze bandage wrapped around her chest, peeking out from the edge of her hospital gown. When she saw Lily, her eyes widened. "You're really her," Carmen whispered. "You're the Lily Hart." Lily gave a small smile as she stepped closer, her heels silent on the polished floor. She wore no makeup today, just jeans, a cream sweater, and that same quiet presence that made people forget to breathe. "I'm no one special," Lily said gently, pulling up a chair. "I just got hurt in the right place at the wrong time." Carmen gave a tiny laugh that ended in a cough. "They wouldn't have let me in here a week ago," she said, voice thin. "My mom tried last year. She was having chest pain. They sent her to county." Her eyes darkened. "She didn't make it." Lily's breath caught. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "She looked like me," Carmen said. "Wrong zip code. Wrong clothes. No shiny card." She paused. "But now they're treating me like I matter. Because of you." Lily reached forward, gently taking the girl's hand. "No," she said. "Because you do." Carmen blinked hard, her lower lip trembling. "I want to be a nurse," she said. "Now I know where I want to work." Lily's heart swelled, the way it always did when the right words found the right ears. "You will," she whispered. "You'll save people. You'll remember what it's like to be on this side of the curtain." She stood, smoothing the blanket over Carmen's legs. Before she left, Carmen said, "They keep calling it your wing. The heart wing. You know that?" Lily paused in the doorway. "It doesn't belong to me," she said. "It belongs to anyone who's ever been told they don't belong." She left quietly, but the feeling she gave stayed behind, warm, unshakable. In that new wing, something had begun. Not just treatment. Hope. By the following Tuesday, the heart wing was more than just a name on a plaque. It had become a pulse. There was color in the halls now, murals painted by local artists, soft jazz humming from wall speakers, nurses in sneakers laughing with patients. Even the lighting was different, warmer, gentler, designed not to glare but to comfort. And the patients? They came. In quiet pairs. In pain. In fear. In clothes that whispered poverty or grief or both. But they were treated. Immediately. Without raised eyebrows or sideways glances. Because the staff had changed, not just the protocols, but their hearts. Carmen was already on her third day of recovery when she asked if she could volunteer. Evelyn said yes before she'd even finished the sentence. Dr. Pierce stopped by each morning now, unhurried, sleeves rolled up, listening instead of lecturing. There was still guilt in his eyes, but something softer too, humility. And then came Thursday morning. The press. Reporters lined the sidewalk in front of Pinnacle, cameras aimed at the entrance. Not for scandal. For celebration. The New York Tribune ran the headline. "A star, a scar, and a second chance. How Lily Hart changed healthcare with one walk through the door." Inside, a quiet ceremony was held to dedicate the Hart wing officially. Board members in sleek suits flanked Evelyn and Lily as photographers snapped pictures. But Lily looked past the cameras. She looked at Carmen, standing in the back in her hospital slippers, her 4-pole now wheeled by a volunteer nurse who called her Warrior. She looked at the cafeteria workers now taking breaks inside instead of in alleys. She looked at the patients, so many, who would have been turned away just a week ago. When it was her turn to speak, Lily stepped up to the microphone. She wore black slacks, a soft linen blouse, and a necklace that once belonged to her mother. No glitter. No glam. Just Lily. "I almost died here," she said plainly. Silence. "I walked through these doors needing help. But I didn't look like someone worth helping." Heads bowed. Kendra, in the second row, wiped her eyes. "And then," Lily continued, "I survived. Which gave me a choice. I could walk away, or I could walk back through those same doors and make sure no one else ever had to earn their worth." A breath. "Then. So I came back." Applause rose slowly. Respectful. Deep. And I'll keep coming back, she added, voice unwavering. Because change doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from staying. She stepped down, returning to her seat without fanfare. And though every camera was on her, she looked only at Carmen, whose eyes, bright with tears, whispered, "Thank you." That night, the hospital lobby was quiet, emptied of press, flowers, and applause. Only the janitor remained, an older man named Miguel who had worked nights at Pinnacle for 18 years. No one had ever asked him much. No one had even noticed when his son passed away last fall, and he'd shown up the very next shift, mop in hand. But tonight, Lily Hart came back. No cameras. No entourage. Just her. She stood quietly in the hallway, watching him work. "You missed a spot," she said softly. Miguel looked up, startled, then grinned when he saw who it was. "Miss Hart," he said, nodding respectfully. "You shouldn't be here after hours." Lily smiled, stepping forward. "Neither should you." He chuckled. "Place doesn't clean itself." She glanced down at the mop, at his calloused hands. "You were here that night, weren't you?" Miguel's smile faded. "I was. I saw what they did. Heard it, too. But I didn't say anything." Lily looked at him kindly. "You didn't mock me. I didn't help either," he replied, voice low. "I've cleaned after people for almost 2 decades. Never thought I belonged here either. So when they laughed at you, I froze." She nodded slowly. "So did they. In a different way." Miguel studied her face. "You're not what I expected." "I never am," Lily said. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "This is for you." Miguel hesitated, then opened it, his hands shaking as he read the contents. A full scholarship for his daughter. Nursing school. Books. Fees. All of it. "My daughter?" he whispered. She's barely started community college." "How did you?" I asked, Lily said simply. "One of the new things around here." Miguel's eyes welled up. "Why me?" "Because I remember what it felt like to be invisible," she said. "And I remember who didn't look away." He pressed the envelope to his chest. "She's going to cry when she sees this." "Good," Lily said, her eyes shining. "Let her know it's not charity. It's the world finally seeing her." And just like that, she turned and left, past the newly printed wall sign that read, "This hospital serves all. No exceptions. No assumptions." Miguel stood alone, watching her go. And for the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged there too. Spring melted into summer, and the Hart wing didn't just grow, it bloomed. There were mornings when Lily Hart would slip through the side entrance wearing jeans and a ball cap, just to walk the halls unnoticed. She'd sit in the waiting area beside mothers holding paperwork and shaking hands. She'd talk with interns over vending machine coffee. She watched quietly, never needing the spotlight, just making sure the light stayed on. Pinnacle Medical had changed. Not just the furniture. Not just the staff. The soul of it had changed. And word had spread. Hospitals in Atlanta, Seattle, and Detroit began calling. Could they replicate the Hart model? Would her foundation help build a similar wing in their underserved neighborhoods? But Lily didn't celebrate. She never threw galas. She didn't give interviews on red carpets. Her only public comment was a hand-scrawled note she taped outside the Hart wing's entrance one morning. "Care is not a privilege. It's a promise. Keep it. LH." It went viral in an hour. Back at home, in her sunlit apartment overlooking the Boston Harbor, Lily strummed her guitar. She hadn't written a song since before that day, the day she walked into the lobby holding her side, bleeding, and left with more wounds than anyone saw. Now something stirred. She wrote the melody before the words came. And when they did, they were soft. Steady. True. She titled it, "The Quiet Note." It wasn't a song for the charts. It was a story. A memory. A vow. And she played it only once, at a small fundraiser for Carmen's scholarship program. Carmen was there, hair now grown back, ID badge clipped proudly to her scrubs. When Lily finished playing, no one clapped right away. They just sat still, quiet, breathless. Moved. Then Carmen stood and spoke. "She didn't save this hospital with money," she said. "She saved it by making us see what we'd stopped seeing. People. Pain. Worth. And when she could have made us pay," Carmen's voice caught, "she chose to make us better." That night, Lily walked home alone. The stars above her were ordinary, but they felt earned somehow. A doorman opened the lobby door of her building and smiled shyly. "Ms. Hart. I saw the fundraiser. That was beautiful." She smiled. "Thank you?" He hesitated. "Can I ask, why didn't you just buy the hospital? You could have. You're rich, right?" Lily paused, then turned back to him with a quiet smile. "I didn't want to own it," she said. "I wanted to change it. And you can't buy a soul." Then she stepped inside, humming that quiet melody as the door closed behind her. And outside, a sign gleamed under the city lights. "The Heart Wing, where all stories begin with belief."